Okay, so welcome to a recap lecture to help you learn while we're not at school. Let me know if this is useful or not. I don't mind doing them as we go through the coming weeks. Feel free to make notes throughout the lecture if it helps you learn. You can either just listen or you can make notes. I'm going to go through the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Bay of Pigs, which caused it, and the consequences of the Cuban Missile Crisis. So let's go. So Cuba, a bit of context. Remember, it's 90 miles off the coast of the USA. If you look on the map there, you can see Cuba, little island, Spanish speaking in Latin America. And you can see just the edge of the USA there, which is Florida, really not far from Cuba. As you know, for those of you that were in the lesson, Cuba had a communist revolution in 1959, and it was under the leadership of Fidel Castro, who was down there. Very popular leader in Cuba, ruled Cuba pretty much up until very recently, really. I think he died in around 2008, 2009. Cuba then obviously becomes friends with the Soviet Union. So how does that happen? Originally, Castro had avoided calling Cuba a communist country. He wasn't a die-hard communist. He saw his revolution as just a battle for freedom against Batista, the previous leader, who was kind of doing bad things and not treating Cubans very well. So at first it didn't really bother the USA. The USA didn't really treat Cuba with kind of hatred or they didn't like them either. They kind of saw them as an indifferent country. Castro had visited the USA when he became leader. He made some speeches saying that he wanted to work with the Americans. He went on chat shows. He even did a chat show in his pajamas and kind of came across as a friendly, non-threatening guy. However, President Eisenhower snubbed him and refused to meet Castro. He didn't like Castro. He thought he was a bit of an idiot. So after this, Castro was hurt. His feelings were hurt. He completely reorganized Cuba, making it more and more communist. The government took over American business. Any Americans that were making money in Cuba lost that money. So Castro turns to the Soviet Union as an obvious ally. Khrushchev gives loans and oil to Cuba. They buy their sugar. The USA, in response, places an embargo on Cuba. An embargo is when a country bans all trade with Cuba. So the USA now has a hostile communist country on their doorstep. Castro gives up trying to be friends with the USA, and he starts to hate the USA. So what happened at the Bay of Pigs? Got a new president, as you know, in 1960, John F. Kennedy. JFK wanted to deal with the threat of Cuba because obviously domino theory, if one country falls to communism, others will follow. They worried that the whole of South America would become like Brazil and Chile. He was worried that they would become communist as well. However, he could not risk being seen as interfering with Cuba because it could risk war, because obviously Cuba was friends with the Soviet Union. So the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency in the USA, planned to help a group of Cuban exiles take over Cuba. Exiles are people who have been kicked out of their country for not following the rules or not following the government, and they were living in Florida. So the CIA trains them up, ready to invade. And this resulted in the total disaster and cause of the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Bay of Pigs invasion. The plan was simple. There was a big group of those Cuban exiles in Florida. The CIA trained them to invade Cuba with the support of the US Air Force. They would fly over and support these rebels. They spent $5 million training these Cuban exiles. They land on the beach on the Bay of Pigs, as you can see on the map, on the 17th of April 1961. So why did it fail? There wasn't much support from other Cubans in joining in with the exiles because Cubans on the whole liked Castro. They liked him much better than the previous leader, Batista. JFK also changed his mind about using the American Air Force at the last minute, and this left the exiles exposed and in danger. 200 out of the 1,500 ground troops were killed as they landed on the beach, and a further 1,197 were captured by the Cubans. It was obvious that it was an American-backed invasion. The USA were humiliated, and the world saw it as illegal under international law, because you can't just go about invading a country. JFK looked weak and inexperienced. He goes into the Vienna summit that we looked at. He goes into that meeting, and Khrushchev is obviously annoyed. It pushed Castro to look for more protection from the USSR, which leads us on to the Cuban Missile Crisis. So October 1962, this all happens within a week and a half. It's the closest the world has ever got to nuclear war. Khrushchev seized an opportunity. Cuba was a friend and ally, and it was just 90 miles away from the USA. Khrushchev put missiles in Cuba. So if you have a look on this map here, you can see in orange the long-range Soviet nuclear missiles. When placed in Cuba, they can hit the whole of the USA and a little bit of Canada. So that's a huge danger. And even the short-range missiles can hit pretty much half of America and hit Washington, where the White House is and where Kennedy is. So JFK's response. It was clearly an attempt by Khrushchev to show his power over the USA, and it was a response to the USA putting missiles in Turkey, close to the USSR. In October 1962, U-2 spy planes found the missiles in Cuba, took photographs, and took them back to Kennedy. He took a week of discussion with his committee that he called ExCom. Finally, he makes a speech to the nation. He declares a naval blockade, so this means that no ships from any country could visit Cuba. No food, no people, no medical supplies. He literally cuts off Cuba from the rest of the world. He famously said to his brother in a letter that it was one hell of a gamble, because he didn't know how Cuba would react, and he didn't know how the Soviet Union would react. This was a clear red line. If the USSR broke the blockade, there would be war. The American army had the power to shoot at any ships and send torpedoes to any submarines that were anywhere near Cuba. American forces were put on DEFCON 3. These are levels of military response. DEFCON 3 was only 2 levels below nuclear war. The world panicked. You had schools practicing drills for what to do if a nuclear bomb hit. Shops closed to watch the news. People stockpiled food awaiting nuclear war. The world went crazy. Everyone was expecting any minute now the Soviets to send over a missile and nuclear war to begin. Khrushchev's response then, so he was convinced the USA would invade Cuba, which he obviously didn't want to happen, because then his missiles would be gone and his ally would be gone. He ordered his forces to be ready to fight if the USA invaded. On the 23rd of October, a fleet of Soviet ships approached Cuba carrying more missiles. This began something we call, as historians, brinkmanship. So you might hear people say, I'm on the brink. It's kind of similar. It's when each side is edging closer and closer to war, knowing that one side needs to back down first. 25th of October, a Soviet ship enters the blockaded zone. It was stopped by US ships, but it became clear that it was just an oil tanker, and so they let it pass. Kennedy just didn't want to provoke the USSR. He didn't want to, declare nuclear war over an oil tanker. He was planning on the same day to send 120,000 US troops to invade Cuba. However, on the 26th, a letter from Khrushchev is received. In the letter, he promised he would withdraw missiles if the Americans promised not to invade. But Cuba was not backing down. They shot down a U-2 spy plane which killed the pilot, so war was looking almost inevitable. There were Soviet submarines getting closer and closer to Cuba, and the US Army were kind of sending shockwaves under the water to try and warn them off. And there was another American plane flying over the Soviet Union, and the USSR shot at it but missed. So it was very, very likely that war could break out at any moment. However, a second letter from Khrushchev arrived. He said he would remove missiles if the American missiles were removed from Turkey and Italy. Remember, America had their own missiles in Turkey, which is very close to the Soviet Union, and Italy. Kennedy did not want to be seen as giving in to the Soviets, but the alternative was nuclear war, so he had no choice but to accept. However, there was one concession, and Khrushchev promised to keep the Turkey missile removal a secret from the rest of the world so that Kennedy didn't look silly or didn't look weak. So the crisis is finally over. Both sides were scared of how close they both got to nuclear war. Nearly there. What the consequences of the Cuban Missile Crisis then? For the Soviets, Khrushchev claimed publicly that he only agreed to remove missiles to ensure world peace, so he tried to make himself out to be a peacemaker. He claimed he was the protector of Cuba from the evils of American capitalism, and saying that he would protect the rest of the Soviet world from American invasion. Cuba remained communist and friendly with the USSR. It is still communist today. Missiles from Turkey and Italy had been removed, so that immediate threat was gone. However, senior members of the Communist Party were unhappy with him. They said he was making reckless decisions, and they were upset that he was the first to back down. He was eventually removed from power 2 years later in 1964, mainly because of how he dealt with this crisis, but also some other issues within the Soviet Union. For the Americans then, Kennedy also claimed that it was a victory for him. He had shown strength in standing up to the Soviets, because remember, people didn't know about the Turkey deal not till much, much later. And he got what he wanted. Nuclear weapons were now far away from the USA. However, Cuba remained a hostile country and a problem for America. They continued trying many, many ways to assassinate Castro, including poisoning his cigars, sending him explosive cigars and things like that. For both sides then, looking down the bottom of the screen, both sides agreed that communication was an issue. They were sending each other letters, which is very, very slow. So a special phone line, a hotline, was set up between the USSR and USA. You can see there, that's the actual phone that Kennedy had installed in his office. This was so that future leaders could speak directly and not rely on slow letter writing. They also had the first agreement on the nuclear test ban treaty. Remember, they were trying to halt the nuclear arms race. However, it was a partial treaty. You could not carry out tests on your nuclear weapons unless it was underground. However, they still had the same number of nuclear weapons. There was no agreement to get rid of those nuclear weapons. So, your task for me today then, could you comment down below on the video 2 ways the Cuban Missile Crisis became a world crisis? So writing it properly and point, evidence, explain. If you don't want to comment publicly, then you can message me on Teams or email me your answer. So think about what we've just learned. You can replay and pause the video in spots. I want you to explain 2 different ways that the Cuban Missile Crisis became a world crisis. So it's like a write an account question. You're just explaining what happened and how it caused a crisis, how it caused tension. Okay, lovely. Thank you for listening. And again, let me know whether this is a helpful thing for you or not. Bye bye.